Step into a world of romance and mystery with Tamora Rose, where candlelight trembles against ancient stone, secrets linger behind locked doors, and love waits in the shadows between fear and desire. There's something timeless about Gothic romance. Even now, centuries after readers first wandered through haunted castles and storm-soaked moors, we still find ourselves drawn back into those dark hallways and moonlit chambers. We still fall for the brooding stranger with sorrow in his eyes. We still ache for the heroine who stands trembling between danger and longing, knowing she should run, but unable to turn away. Gothic romance is not simply about ghosts or old mansions. It's about emotional intensity. It is about the collision between vulnerability and temptation. At its heart, Gothic romance asks one irresistible question. What happens when love enters a place already haunted by fear? That tension is what gives the genre its power. The atmosphere matters, of course, the thunder rolling across ancient hills, the endless corridors lit by flickering candles, the rain tapping against the windows while secrets gather like shadows in the corners of the room. But none of those things would matter without the emotional stakes beneath them. A Gothic love story works because the setting reflects the inner world of the characters. The storm outside mirrors emotional chaos. The crumbling estate becomes a symbol of buried grief, fractured memory, or old wounds that never healed properly. Every detail is designed to make the reader feel that love itself has entered dangerous territory. And strangely enough, that danger is part of the appeal. There's something deeply compelling about romance that does not feel safe. Not abusive, not cruel, but emotionally risky. Transformative. The kind of love that demands honesty, vulnerability, and surrender. In Gothic romance, characters rarely arrive untouched by pain. The hero may be burdened by guilt, grief, or a past he cannot escape. The heroine often carries her own fears. Fear of betrayal, fear of desire, fear of losing herself entirely. Their connection becomes meaningful because it forces both of them to confront the parts of themselves they would rather keep hidden. That is why these stories linger with readers long after the final page. The romance is not decorative. It changes the characters. It drags hidden truths out into the light. It forces emotional reckoning. And perhaps that is why Gothic romance feels so emotionally satisfying. The love at its center must survive darkness before it can truly become whole. One of the most important elements in Gothic storytelling is the atmosphere. Atmosphere is not background decoration. It's emotional architecture. It shapes how readers experience every scene. A quiet hallway becomes unsettling because of what might be waiting at the end of it. A candle flame feels fragile because the truth is about to surface. Even silence becomes heavy with tension. Now, the best Gothic stories understand that atmosphere works through the senses. Readers need to feel the damp chill of the stone walls beneath trembling fingertips. They need to hear footsteps echoing through those empty halls. They need to smell old books and rain-soaked earth and fading roses and smoke from that fireplace that burns just a little bit too low. These details create immersion, but they also create emotional vulnerability. The world itself begins pressing inward on the characters, forcing intimacy, fear, and revelation. Then there are the secrets. Gothic romance thrives on secrecy. Hidden rooms and buried histories and forbidden relationships. Family scandals whispered about behind closed doors. The genre understands that mystery is seductive because human beings are drawn to what remains partially concealed. But the strongest Gothic stories do not use secrets merely for shock value. The secret must matter emotionally. It must shape trust between the characters. It must create tension between love and fear. Sometimes the mystery is supernatural, a haunting or a curse or a voice heard late at night when no one should be there. But often the real ghost in Gothic romance is emotional. Grief that never healed. betrayal that poisoned generations, trauma passed silently through families until it becomes part of the walls themselves. Modern Gothic romance has evolved beautifully in this way. Contemporary readers still love the misty landscapes and the ancient estates, but they also connect deeply with emotional realism. Today's Gothic heroines are rarely passive figures waiting to be rescued. They investigate the mystery themselves. They challenge the darkness instead of simply fleeing from it. That evolution has made the genre even richer. Modern Gothic romance understands that strength and vulnerability can exist together inside the same character. A heroine can be intelligent, capable, and determined, while still longing desperately for connection. She can face danger directly and still feel heartbreak. She can still be afraid. And the romantic lead has evolved as well. The brooding hero is no longer compelling simply because he's mysterious. Readers want emotional depth beneath the darkness. They want complexity, wounds, humanity. The modern Gothic hero is often dangerous, not because he is monstrous, but because he has been damaged by loss, isolation, or grief. Love becomes transformative because it forces him to confront himself honestly for the first time. That emotional honesty is essential. Without it, Gothic romance risks becoming all atmosphere but no soul. Because ultimately, what readers crave is not merely mystery. They crave emotional catharsis. They want to watch two people stand at the edge of ruin and choose each other anyway. There's something profoundly romantic about characters finding tenderness in places shaped by sorrow. A hand reaching across candlelight, a confession whispered in the dark, a moment of trust offered despite every reason to withhold it. These stories resonate because they reflect something deeply human. Most people carry shadows of some kind: old grief or fear of abandonment, regret, loneliness. Gothic romance externalizes those emotions into landscapes and storms, ghosts and haunted houses. The darkness becomes visible, and then love walks right into it. That is the emotional alchemy at the center of the genre. Love does not erase the darkness, it illuminates it. It makes healing possible. Even paranormal Gothic romances often revolve around this idea. Vampires, witches, spirits, immortals. These supernatural elements become metaphors for longing, isolation, temptation, or emotional exile. The magic works because it amplifies emotional truth, rather than just replacing it. That is why stories involving forbidden magic, or cursed bloodlines, or impossible love continue to captivate readers. Beneath the fantasy, there's still stories about connection, about wanting to be fully understood, even in the parts of ourselves that we fear most. And visually, few genres are more intoxicating. The candlelit libraries, the velvet gowns sweeping across marble floors, ancient portraits staring down at us from shadowed walls. Gothic romance understands the seductive power of beauty touched by decay. There's elegance in melancholy. There's romance in ruins. And there's extraordinary emotional tension in stories where desire and danger stand side by side. Perhaps that is why we return to these stories again and again, because they remind us that love is rarely simple. Real intimacy requires risk. To love someone deeply is to allow yourself to be seen completely, flaws, wounds, fears, and all. Gothic romance simply wraps that emotional truth in thunder, candlelight, and mystery. It tells us that love is powerful enough to walk through haunted corridors, powerful enough to survive secrets, powerful enough to endure grief, fear, and darkness without losing its tenderness. And in a world that often demands emotional distance, there's something deeply comforting about stories that embrace intensity instead. Stories where passion matters. Stories where longing matters. Stories where love is not casual or convenient, but transformative. That is the enduring nature of Gothic romance. Not the castles, not the ghosts, not even the shadows themselves. It is the belief that even in darkness, the human heart still reaches for connection. And sometimes, against all odds, it finds it. That's it for today. Tell me about your favorite Gothic romance novel, film, or character in the comments below. Until we meet again, may your days be filled with passion, just a touch of magic.